You. Welcome back to The Advisor. If you have not yet done so, please hit that like and subscribe button. Today we have Beverly Cornell, and you guys know her marketing mastery. She is brilliant. She's the fairy godmother of brand clarity at Wickedly Branded. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about her story, how she got to where she is today. She serves thousands of clients all over the world and gives herself to all of them at her fullest potential, but she had to get there somewhere. And today she has agreed to be vulnerable and open up about her story. And I am jacked. I cannot wait. So stay tuned because Beverly is back and we're going to learn about her journey becoming a high performing solopreneur. It's not easy, hey?
Absolutely not. Like your introduction is so kind, Lisa. And it still is a little surreal when people talk about me that way because I feel like I've come so far and had to feel like I had to prove myself and I had to claim my space and all these things that had to happen in the evolution of even from a very young account executive for Chrysler's advertising agency, working with all men, by the way, to now
Yeah.
my own company and what that looks like and spanning almost 30 years. That seems so unreal, but what that looks like has been it's not a linear road, it's not an easy road. Just before we started talking on this podcast recording, we talked about how living this life as a human can be very complicated, but also running a
Mm.
business and kind of finding your purpose and your place can be very complicated as well.
Totally, totally. Man, when you said working with a bunch of men, and I can only assume that you had that deep burning fire in your heart and you weren't being seen because I can relate to that as like working in the corporate world and like knowing I was not necessarily above, but had my own mind and knew I was here for a bigger purpose. But them in the situations knocking me down and then having me doubt myself. And 20-year-old me is like, no, like I don't feel good. This doesn't feel right. But forcing myself into it because society was telling me that this is how to be successful. This is what success means.
Mhm.
Can you relate to that?
Yeah, I remember going home and telling my dad I'm working with a bunch of my dads. And and
Shit.
that and that because I was this 23-year-old bright-eyed young person having to kind of get their approval for everything, it was really challenging. And I knew I was meant for more, but what more was, like you said, that burning kind of inside of you was really elusive. I didn't know what more was at the time. I just knew that it wasn't that. I learned a ton, and don't get me wrong, these guys were great. I have no hate for men. I loved working with them. I learned a ton, but it also was a very challenging and different experience as a young person with a bunch of established, seasoned men in the space. And beside, without trying to, they often stomped on the young people, on their ideas, they talked over them. There's a lot of things that happen when you're a young person and also a woman in the workplace. At that time, it was the early 90s. Like we haven't come super far, that by that time. Like my mom said when she graduated from high school in 1970, she could be a nurse, a librarian, or a teacher. And 20 years later, here I am now, a marketing executive working in the marketing world. So we hadn't come super far, and we were still kind of defining what that looked like as being a woman, as being an executive, and where we fit in all that, not as a secretary or not as the wife or whatever that looked like for people at the time. So I feel like I was kind of at a place in history where I entered the workplace that things were really starting to shift and change, and we had to kind of figure it out, and there weren't a lot of mentors or older women to help us
Yes.
do
God, yeah. Oh, so what happened? I'm dying to know. How did you get out of that?
that. Well, again, I learned so much, so I would not trade it for the world. I made some great incredible friends. I had a couple of wonderful male mentors who were extremely giving with their advice and knowledge. it was a very, it was the perfect job for a young person out of school at the time. I got to travel the world. I mean, I went all over the country. I got to meet all kinds of people, from farmers to motorcycle drivers to, I got to have this whole expansive experience because I was in charge of the Dodge truck line. So I would go and present the Dodge truck at events and give away vehicles. Everybody wanted me to come because I was giving away a vehicle. So it was a really fun job for a young person to be able to be part of. And there's a lot of young people who worked with me. And we really bonded. And some of those very friends that sat next to me in the cube next to me are still my very good friends. So we have all evolved and grown, and some of us have our own businesses now. And it's been really fun to see that network of people that I started off with, and how we've all kind of claimed our space in this space. But, I started in Chrysler. I ended up leaving Chrysler actually right after 9/11. The car industry kind of took a tank, because nobody was buying cars because everyone was really scared, after 9/11. And
Yeah.
so I went back and got my master's degree in communications, focusing on diversity and culture, and I got certified as an ESL instructor, English as a second language instructor. I've lived in
Ah,
Spain, I've
cool.
lived in Brazil as exchange students, I've had exchange students in my home, and I really wanted to do something more with this international side of things. And so I worked for a language school for a while, and then I became their marketing director. And then I worked for a translation agency for a while and did business translations, really like for heavy machinery, actually, like for Caterpillar and some of those. Like I was the marketing director for that company. And then I worked for a tech startup that was a language learning software company, and built it from 1 million to 10 million with an amazing group of people. There was about 10, 12 of us that just dug in and built this amazing business. I knew how hard it was to be an entrepreneur because I'd helped build a business before I started my own business. But as life has it, once you get to a certain point and you're a VP of marketing, I think we talked about this before. My title there was the director of awesome. And so I really loved what I was doing. Super fun cultures, building these cultures, creating magic in these cultures. That particular business, we built a culture that was extremely magical. And I learned that's important internally as well as externally from a marketing perspective. And I loved my job incredibly. And when I met my now husband, and he is an active duty Army soldier, he was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I was in Detroit, Michigan. You can't stay married. I mean, you guess you can, but I couldn't stay in Detroit, and I had to go to North Carolina to be with him. And remote working wasn't really a thing. So
Right. Yeah.
I started freelancing, for myself. I had a old friend from high school who had her own business, and I was a customer of hers. And she was like, "Can you do some work with me?" And that's really how it started. And I started working, through, it was through Zoom and other things at the time for sure. But started working remotely before it was even cool. And had to kind of figure it all out because I never intended to be an entrepreneur, Lisa. I knew how much work it was. And so I was not in this false sense of like, oh, I can start a business, it'll be easy and do those things. I actually probably over analyzed it because I knew how hard it was to build a
Right.
business. And when I started my business, I got married, but I didn't have a plan because I hadn't been dreaming of starting my business. So I just kind of winged it. And by winging it is very dangerous because I was very good at what I did and what I do, and my business started to grow, but my clients started to define my business. So someone would come to me, I need this. Okay. Someone would come to me, I need this. Okay. And those weren't necessarily the things that I was meant to do. It was just what I was doing to say yes to grow. And by all measures, bottom line numbers, number of clients, referrals, I was growing. I was doing really, really well, Lisa, but I was not happy, and I was completely burnt out. And I feel like this notion of hustle culture, of what success looks like for women, is extremely dangerous.
Totally. I can just feel your heart when you say that you were outsourcing every single part of you.
Mhm.
every single part of you.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging because we're not meant to wake up and hustle all day long. We're meant to be and be with ourselves and our family. And yeah, there's a lot of pressure on women, especially to be something they're not, to be seen as almighty, I guess you could say.
Superwoman, right? For me, being a solopreneur has meant juggling multiple identities at the same time. Accidental entrepreneur, army wife, stepmom, mom, and of course, just trying to figure out how to have it all work together while living my midlife. It was like my late 30s, and here I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. And I think that's a very definitive time in our lives too, of like evolution of who we are as ourselves, not as what society has told us to be. And what I learned along the way is that leading with soul instead of hustle is the only way that I can show up in a meaningful way for both myself and my family and my business. Like it's the only way that I can do that. So when I went from freelancing to like an agency, we know we are a boutique branding digital marketing agency. We have had some evolution there as well. And we went from freelancing to agency, and then we actually rebranded as Wickedly Branded this year. And we operate on three core values that I think are really important for the soul, for our business. And it's really shaped my life and my journey and the work that we do for sure. They are honor, dynamic, and fusion. And these aren't like typical words you hear in the corporate speak of core
No,
values, not
no.
integrity and like
Yeah.
customer service. And like I did not want the typical ones. And I really pushed my team at the time to discuss deeply what made us different. And they reflected on a lot of things, and they really started to think about the essentials of when I gave feedback to them. What were the things that I always highlighted? What were the things that always mattered to me? What were the things that I like not harped on or nagged about, but the things that I knew were so important to the essence and soul of our business? And these really, I mean, these words have become the foundation of everything and helped me stay strong and true to who we are and make yes and no decisions based on these words. So I kind of want to dive into them. Is that okay? Lisa, can we dive in? Okay.
Yeah,
So
please.
honor is the belief that we honor ourselves, our team, our clients, and the work that we do. We do what's right and we hold ourselves accountable, and we maintain high integrity through every project and every relationship that we have. But this does not mean we are perfect. We care and we do our best always. That is what honor means. And that's the only way you can be as a human, I feel like. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens in the world, if we have honor, I'll be able to sleep at night and know we did the right thing, period. Dynamic is the belief that one thing I know for sure, Lisa, this is it. This is the one thing. This is
Oh
this is
my
it.
God, I'm ready. I'm holding on.
I
What
don't know
is it?
everything. I don't know everything. And we're always learning, whether that's from our mistakes, from our clients, or from trends in the market. Marketing has changed so much since the early 1990s, and it is up to us to stay curious always.
Yeah.
And then fusion. I almost called this gumbo, but
Gumbo.
fusion became the thing. It is the belief that our marketing passion and expertise, coupled with the client's knowledge and their vision, create an action, create
Mm.
momentum, create results, and we get to witness their businesses grow. It's an incredible honor for us to join forces, literally join forces. In fusion, you have two forces that come together and create this action, right? And we get to walk beside them as they overcome challenges. Such strong action happening there. They get to grow beyond what they thought was even possible, and they get to achieve something that they've always wanted. They get to achieve a dream, and that is magical. That is fusion
Mm.
for us. So for me, these three core values are the foundation of how I built my framework for our business that really is all dedicated to helping high performing entrepreneurs, especially women who want to grow and scale more authentically, more themselves, and step out of this We've talked about this in previous episodes. Tornado of overwhelm that really can happen when you own a business, but more into this like soulful alignment of what their purpose is and the legacy they're supposed to leave on this planet. So kind of big lofty goals, I guess, Lisa.
Those are, you know what, I'm curious to know how the shift happened. So I'm imagining
Yeah.
you're exhausted, your energy source, your battery is like blinking red, it's blinking fast. It's like plug me in, plug me in, plug me in. How did you plug in?
So what's ironic about my journey is in 2012, when I started my business, I wanted a job that created freedom, right? I needed to move wherever. I wanted to create something that worked for my family, especially, you know, being an army wife and having to move every 2 to 3 years. It was essential. I could not find a VP of marketing job every 2 to 3 years. You have to network and know people and all those things. Like that wasn't going to happen. And I really wanted to use my education and my passion. But I needed this job that I could do from anywhere. And at the time, remember, it wasn't really a thing. So it was, I had like no real role models of what to do or how to show up in this space. And I really wanted to teach my kids that anything was possible if you really worked hard, right? Like I really wanted to show them that this is something that you could do for yourself and create for yourself. But as I really really got into the nitty gritty of running a business, the accounting, the legal, and the
Gosh,
taxes and the HR stuff and all the things that you have to do as an entrepreneur to spin the plates and do all the things, I realized that freedom was coming at a very high price. Freedom wasn't really freedom. I became a workaholic. I thought that being successful meant working more hours and juggling more clients and doing all the things. This is such a woman thing, all the things for everyone, because that's what high performing looks like. And what I have
that's a
found through
success.
lots
Yes,
of,
that's a society
yeah,
society defines
right,
success. Oh,
said yes to everything. And 40-hour work weeks, which was what my norm before, became 80-hour work weeks. I
Jesus.
simply got lost in it all. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't enjoying the work I was doing. I was completely and utterly burnt out. I love the battery analogy, Lisa. I was overwhelmed and I was so frustrated. And I certainly wasn't fun to be around.
So you were functioning like this with your kids growing up and your husband, and
Yep.
what was that like? What paint us a picture of what that looked like?
So our life in the last 13, 14 years being married has been very complicated. We've lived through deployments and trainings. We've had infertility. I am a stepmother, which is a complicated life experience in general. I am also a foster mom who has adopted a child through this. I've had my biological father come back into my life. I've had my stepfather who adopted me have cancer. I've experienced some health challenges. I had a major hip injury for about 3.5, 4 years, had a year recovery for that. Uh, it's messy, is what it looks like. And I don't think I'm alone, Lisa. Like, I don't think you can replace all those things with other things for other people. But my particular journey was filled with all of those things. And I remember, I remember when we got Zeke. He's one of our foster children. They called us the day he was born. And on that day, they said, we have this little boy and we wanted to adopt a child so very badly. We'd had a failed adoption, which was heartbreaking. And I'm alone. I'm home alone, and my husband is in the field, unreachable by cell, because this is what happens when you're an army wife. You just can't ever get a hold of your husband. And so I told the agency, yes, we would take this child, but my
Wow.
husband has no idea that we are getting this child, right? And we're picking him
Holy
up.
smokes.
We're picking him up tomorrow, and I don't have baby gear because I was not pregnant for 9 months to be able to establish this particular experience, right? And so I put out a call to my neighborhood. Does anybody have anything? I'm going to go buy a stroller and some other things today. If you have something, I'd be really grateful. Literally cribs and diapers and clothes showed up at my front door before my husband even knew we were having a baby. And so this is the kind of life that I was leading. Was we wanted a baby, wanted to build our family, So he's away at training. He does finally figure it out. He does go to the hospital with me and picks up the baby with me. And he is very happy that we got our child. It wasn't a bad situation. I mean, we'd already had this kind of agreement, but
Thank you. I was thinking it. I'm like, how did that turn out?
yeah, the speed with which this happened was a little bit different than we had anticipated.
Mm,
And so he was 2 days
what a
old. We
beautiful story, though.
picked him up from the hospital, and I, as an entrepreneur, do not have family leave that's paid. And my husband immediately goes to California for 2 months for training. And remember, we're
Holy
army
smokes.
family. So we've moved away from all of our support system. I don't have my parents. I don't have my best friends. I have no cousins or aunts and uncles to help support this child. So there were many a call where I had the baby on my shoulder, burping the baby as I'm doing a high level meeting about marketing. And those first clients that I had were extremely gracious people, obviously, but they're still my clients. 13 years later, they're still my clients. They experienced me not working 9 to 5, but sending emails at 1 a.m. because he was awake and I was feeding him. They knew I was just trying to live my life around what my life had become and trying to figure it out. I was it was a little interesting because my child did not like to sleep. I did not get a lot of sleep for a while, but we figured it out. And I ended up hiring a mommy's helper to help during meetings. And most of the time I was able to do meetings without him on my shoulder. But if he was screaming, crying, the only person that can help is mom. And you and I know this, like this is like a thing that the kids just know they need their mother. So for the most part, I was able to figure it out and navigate it and all of that. When he was 7 months old is when I had my hip surgery. So we literally learned how to walk together. So I remember taking him and putting him up the stairs one at a time. As I crawled up the stairs, I was crawling with my child because I could not walk, and very humbling experiences in that. And so life is full of blessings and challenges, but I've always really figured it out because I believe I'm meant for more. I believe that this is something that what I'm doing is important work. That that life is hard, but also this work that I do is extremely integrative to who I am. Something I'm actually working on now, Lisa, with my therapist is, what does my life look like without my work? Because at some point I'm gonna have to retire. Well, I don't know what that looks like,
Yeah,
but
that's challenging for a lot of people, especially when they hold their own business. And
yeah, yeah.
I just
So
want to say this. I want to say that thank you so much for telling everybody what you just did, because there is this disillusion that is out there every time you open the damn social media that shows that these people who are high performing in this industry have it all figured out and live these perfect lives, and it's not messy. And you just completely squashed that and gave everybody the truth of what it's like to have a business in your world. And so thank you for that, because I'm just so sick of it.
yeah, it's time to like just be real. Like, stop all the perfection. I'm a recovering perfectionist as well, which also kind of comes from some trauma. But when you look at, in society also puts a lot on us, but when you look at people's real stories, when you look at the humanity of, I'm just trying to build something here. I'm just trying to make a family, trying to live my life. I'm trying to support my husband who's serving our country. I'm trying, there's many a time where I was upset at the army for taking him away when I needed him most, like when I had a 6-week-old baby. But
Totally.
we sacrifice a lot for that. And, I come from a service family. My mother was a nurse. My dad was a teacher. Like, this is not new, this level of service. And probably one of the main reasons I really respect my husband is his heart of service. That informs how we do our business too. We have a serving heart, and that is important to say too. We can do more things than we think we can. Like I I joke that I was an only child, and up until I got married, I thought I had control of my life. Thought I had control of my life. And then I got married, and the army and the universe and God and everybody else had other plans for me, because a baby, couldn't have a baby again, infertility. I wanted this. I want like it never was exactly what I thought my life was going to look like, but I would go through all of it again to get my son, like all the infertility and the failed adoption and all the things it was meant to be. And everything prepared me for the role that I have now. But all these transitions, all these relationships that we've created, all the resilience that I've done has helped me really become, I think, a leader that I needed to become. Like I wouldn't be who I am without all those experiences and the empathy and understanding of humanness of people and our clients, to meet them where they are, like never to judge, because I have been in the thick of it, desperate. And so I have deep compassion for the human experience in this. And so I know that this is why it's my purpose. Like I've been preparing for this my whole life. So it's incredibly important work. And it's not just marketing. My husband has always said, you're not just a marketer. And I never had words for that. But now I know it's about finding their magic and awakening it and activating it and amplifying it and automating it so that they can work in the place they're supposed to as well. So it's deeply different than just a marketing agency, for sure.
I'm curious. I'd love for you to get a little bit more into the work that you're doing, but how did old Beverly, the one that was outsourcing all of her energy, evolve, and how does that affect your relationship with your clients now? Like, how can you show up for them now, and how has that changed the way you work with them?
So there were two key things that happened to me that forced me to kind of shift my thinking. I remember one night, and we've kind of talked about this on previous episodes. It was like late, like at midnight, and my husband's sleeping, my son is sleeping, and I'm staring at the computer, and like my eyes are dry, but my eyelids are almost like they can't even close because it's like the cartoon where the toothpicks are holding it open because I have to get that one more thing done before I go to sleep. Because if I don't want to start my day like I feel like I'm drowning already. Like I was trying to like get myself situated so the next day wouldn't be as crazy. That was always the hope, always the hope. um I was just I was just trying to do all the things, right? And I remember being very lonely in that moment. My family is like living their life and going to sleep and doing things they're supposed to. And I remember at that inflection point, at that point in my business, I almost closed the business. I didn't think that I had what it took to make it at this pace. Like that I actually had a lot of moments of like, I'm a failure. Like despite all the signs of growing and thriving business, maybe I just wasn't made to be an entrepreneur. Like maybe that's just not what that's who I am. But around that same time, I think within that week or two of like having the serious doubt and maybe closing the doors and like this isn't for me, I was giving advice to a client. And I had this like out of body experience where I was looking down on the conversation and watching it happen and asking myself, why am I not taking the advice that I teach my clients?
Mm.
Why would I not give myself the same magic, these gifts of clarity and consistency and simplicity? And this was really the moment that changed everything. And I was working on everyone else's magic and not on my own. And I wasn't aligning my values with my work and my purpose. And then the next big kicker, which was like the 2x4 on all of it, was I lost a couple of key clients who I had been dragging across the finish line, who I probably should never have even taken on as clients because my systems were not built for them. And I didn't have the expertise and I had to figure that all out. Not that I couldn't figure it out, but it just wasn't something I did every day and was like very comfortable for me. And all of a sudden I had time on my calendar, time to breathe, time to mourn this phase of my business, but also time to learn, to ask myself the same questions I ask my clients, to journal, to create a vision, which was amazing. That whole process was amazing. Because remember, an accidental entrepreneur, I never had a vision for my business. Then I created a plan. And all of a sudden, instead of waking up at 3 a.m. completely stressed, I was waking up at 3 a.m. with ideas and excitement, and everything changed. I really want to take a minute and invite the listeners for a second on exercise. I want you to think about this right now. If you feel like you're in the same boat, like 3 a.m. wake up, stressing at 12 o'clock, 40-hour work weeks to 80-hour work weeks, you're feeling extremely burnt out, and maybe you're not so fun to be around too. That's happening. I want you to take a minute to pause and reflect on your journey, maybe a few minutes, maybe an hour. Give yourself this gift. What are the things that are working? What are the things that are not working? And what's one thing that you can simplify today for yourself? Just one little small step forward, and honoring you is such a gift. And it'll also create some more clarity and magic in your business in the process. So I really would welcome you to do that. And if you do that, like, leave me a comment or a review on this episode, share it with me, because I want to hear how you can give this gift to yourself. Because this was probably the biggest shift. Instead of saying yes to everyone, it was the first time I said yes to myself.
Absolutely amazing. I love that so much. Giving yourself what you need. And now everything just kind of fell into place. Is that what happened? Everything just fell into place once you gave yourself permission to take care of you and you weren't living in this crazy world of chaos.
Yeah.
How did that change? Like, what happened?
So when we live in this hustle culture, when we live this, women bear the brunt of it, I feel like. I call it the should suitcase. You should be a
I
designer.
like that.
You should be a great mom. You should be a boss Barbie, and you should be happy doing it all, because that's what we're supposed to. And balance this ever elusive thing, this ideal that is impossible when carrying the should suitcase. It is impossible. The should suitcase is heavy. The should suitcase weighs you down. The should suitcase slows you down. I also realized something important. Being a high performer doesn't mean doing everything. It means focusing on what I love doing, what truly matters, and doing it really, really well. And that goes far beyond my business. It goes into my relationships with my family, my husband, my friends, my team, my clients, and most importantly, with myself. This is when I developed the brand magic method, was from this journey. It's now what I use to help overachieving, overwhelmed female founders, the ones I call those high achieving unicorns. I love them so much. Get unstuck, clarify their vision, and build a brand that feels much more soul aligned to who they are. These women, and I'm one, so I'm right there with them. They're on top of their game. They're amazing. Lisa, I'm sure you're in the same spot, right? Super smart, brilliant, and hardworking, incredibly hardworking people, but they're overwhelmed by the chaos of being an entrepreneur, the noise that exists in the should suitcase, and they want to get bigger, but they don't want to lose themselves completely in the process, and we shouldn't have to sacrifice ourselves in the process. And I think that kind of worked for men. I joke about this because if I had a wife, I probably wouldn't have to worry so much about this. But because I am the wife, it's a whole different thing. I realized that I could help them and help other women tap into their own clarity, and that we have to redefine what it means to be a high achieving woman today without having a wife. Really, to do all the things for us to help us out, so that they can grow and feel deeply aligned. And I want them to create the exact business that works for them. You and I talked about this before. We live in a time where you can create whatever business you want. There are no limitations. You don't have to look at anybody else. Don't get caught in the competition trap of looking at what everybody else is doing. Don't look at the Instagram and all the perfection. Do not do this to yourself. Look at what makes you happy. Look at what you want to do and create a business from there. Because that's what I had to do. I had to throw away the should suitcase. And I had to look at what worked for me, my Army family, my higher needs child, I'm ADHD, I'm 50 years old, I'm living through perimenopause, which is a lovely thing if you have not started it. And what works for me is what works for me. And what works for other women works for other women. But I know that it doesn't have to look like what other people are doing out there. It can look exactly what it looks like for me. And I just need to figure that out for myself. And one of the ways that we do that in the brand magic method is we spend 90 minutes with our clients. We look at where they've been, where they are, where they want to go. We look at the challenges they're facing, and we give them 4 to 6 next best opportunities to get them to where they want to go. And they actually have a plan for the first time that's aligned with who they are, their vision, their core values, the soul essence of who they are. And it might not be things that you think of. For example, I worked with an accountant once, and she would kind of joke with me, I am not an accountant. I'm a creative soul, and accounting kills me in my very essence. If you want to squash my energy, put some books in front of me, and I'm gonna be like, I don't want to do this.
I can relate to
My
that.
first hire was my bookkeeper and my tax, my CPA. And she was a client of mine. And when her tagline is, "I'm not your father's accountant," which already gives you all kinds of wonderful thoughts in your head. But she said to me when she did the brand spark experience with me, she said, "You found money on the table for me." And I didn't think that a marketer would find money. Like, that's kind of like antithesis of what you do, because I see things differently than they do. When you're in the weeds, when you have all the things in your head, you can't see these opportunities. And someone who's kind of above the trees, who understands what makes a successful business, looking at opportunity for service levels that could be reoccurring income, for example, or how the service levels can work with each other, and you can get repeat business by putting them through like a funnel of sorts. These are things that I do every day. And they don't do that. They might be doing accounting, or they might be a therapist, or they might be, so that's not something that they think about. And in this brand spark experience, and I call it an experience because it can be a little emotional, it can be a little challenging, it can be extremely relieving, because everything in your head is finally down on paper. And when you free yourself from all those things in your head, when you free up that space, you're able to do more, and in the ways that matter to you. So it's very, for the first time, so many of my clients see what's actually possible. And that is, to me, so incredibly exciting. So we call that awakening the magic, because now they see what's possible, and they see their magic written out in a way that they've never seen it before. When we are solopreneurs, when we work by ourselves, when we are alone at our desks doing the thing every day, working with clients, doing all that, but we're alone every day handling the problems that happen, it's very lonely at times. And no one's there saying, "Hey, good job, Lisa. You did that thing really great today." You have to give it to yourself often. And when you see your mission and your vision, your goals written out for the first time in a very aspirational way, it's, so many of them say, "Hey, I want to know her," but it's them.
Yeah.
It's them. And that, I think, reframing how they even see themselves is very powerful. And you need somebody to help you do that sometimes, because you get so stuck in the weeds with it. So that process, and that's what I did for myself. I asked myself all these questions, saw myself differently. It's the exact process that I put my clients through, I put myself through. And I always joke, I always joke that I was the Calvert kids with no shoes, and then I wanted the Louis Vuittons because that was the best for my marketing and for my vision and purpose. But then what I realized is I didn't want somebody else's shoes. I wanted my own version, my iridescent, I've talked about this before, my iridescent sparkly ballet flats work really well for me. I don't need high heels. I want comfort, but I want some sparkle and glitter. So I help them find their version of home, their version of iridescent sparkly slippers. And it may look completely different than mine, but the process helps them find that for them.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your journey and everything that you've been through. For the listeners out there who are like, how do I get in touch with this woman? She gets it. She gets me. I need help. And I admit it. Oh my God, I finally am admitting that I can't do this alone. I need help. What can they do to get in touch with you? And do you have like a clarity chat of some sort that
Yes.
can help
So,
them?
um, so I have a couple different things that might be helpful. If you're feeling overwhelmed right now, and know that it's okay to feel that way, first of all, you're exactly where you're supposed to be on this journey. I've been there. I know it's hard, but the key to that next step, the key to waking the magic, a key to that more clarity for yourself and what really matters to you, you don't need to follow somebody else's roadmap. I really want that to be clear. So don't look, I call it the man behind the curtain. You know, I have a whole Wizard of Oz thing. Don't go looking for the thing that's going to fix it. Don't look for a band-aid. Don't look for, because really the answer when you open the curtain is you. It is you. And so what I have is I have a quiz on my website called the Brand Magic Quiz. And it's like a 3-minute quiz. It's maybe 10 questions, Lisa. Like it's not hard, but it really asks questions about clarity, confidence, and simplicity. And what it does is it helps you see where you might need the most help. Is it clarity? Is it my confidence? Because we all have a little bit of that too. Imposter syndrome, perfectionism, doubts, all those things happen. The flying monkeys that we've talked about in the past. And so it's a great first step to figure out where you are in your journey, like what do I need to focus on, and what your next aligned move is. So I send some great actionable tips based on where you're at, if it's clarity, simplicity, or confidence to get you started. So just to start to create some momentum in that process for you. But if you're ready to go deeper and really, transform the way you work, I really strongly suggest booking a free 15-minute clarity chat. We'll chat about where you're feeling really stuck and how you can move toward what that baby step could be, a business that truly lights you up. So the quiz is wickedlybranded.com/quiz. And you can always connect with me on LinkedIn at Wickedly Branded or at Beverly Cornell, like Beverly Hills and Cornell University. I'm all over that, and I love to connect and share. And if you are taking a step based on today's chat, I want to hear about it. I want to hear your successes. You are not alone. Like I'm here to cheerlead for you. I know Lisa will cheerlead for you. Your magic awakening that is super extraordinarily special. And you, for the first time, maybe giving to yourself is a big deal. So I really hope that everyone listening remembers that you don't need to have it all figured out today, because good Lord knows I did not have it figured out, nor do I still have it figured out. Remember the one thing that I know? I don't know everything, but every step forward creates momentum, even the small ones. So just keep showing up, keep leading with your soul and your heart, and keep trusting yourself and your magic.
Beautiful. Before we end the episode, again, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your journey and your wisdom and for being vulnerable and for opening up. Do you have any final words of wisdom?
Just, you don't need to hustle harder. Please don't do that. You just need to grow a little deeper with yourself.
Thank you so much. It was so fun hearing your story. I am just beyond elated. Thank you so much for showing up today and for giving that part of you is amazing.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I always enjoy our chats and appreciate you so much. You're one of my cheerleaders too, and I need that too. So thank you.
Yes, always. I'm always clicking those likes and commenting on your stuff.
I love it. Thank you.
I can feel your heart. I can feel it. So, of course, happy to cheer you on. And to our listeners, wickedlybranded.com is where you will find Beverly, and you can set up that, or you can take her quiz, set up that clarity call. You guys, don't let fear stand in the way. Take that next step. Spoiler alert, you're gonna feel better. And that is magical. Until next time, take care, everyone.